When you have the inventory module for CenterPoint and need to enter in the beginning balance for inventory items, you will do that on the inventory adjustment screen. Before we go there, there's three things that I want to point out. First is that when you set up your database, it asks for a beginning transaction date for your database. Mine was selected as 1/1 of 24. When I did that, it actually created an extra open period called the beginning balance period, which was 1 month prior. So for my database, that's going to be December of 2023. That's the period that we're going to enter in our beginning balances into. Next, before we begin entering in beginning balances, you also need to be aware of the inventory valuation method selected for purchased inventory for resale in your database. And we can see that by going to Setup and to Companies. I'm going to edit the company and go to the Additional Detail tab. And on the Additional Detail tab, there's a box labeled Inventory Valuation Method. And you can see that my options were first in, first out, last in, first out, or average. Mine is set to average, but yours might be first in, first out, or last in, first out. If it's one of the latter two, then you may need to put in several inventory balance transactions in order to get the inventory balances incorrectly. And then finally, before we enter in the beginning balance transactions, I want to make you aware of what account it's going to be adjusting as the offset in that transaction. So it's going to be increasing the inventory item by debiting it. So and there's another account that's going to get the credit, and that account can be found on the setup of the inventory item. So underneath Setup, Inventory, and Inventory Items, I'm going to edit an inventory item and go to the Accounts tab. And the account that it's going to be adjusting is whatever account is in the Adjustments box. So that's the one that's going to get the offset. So now to adjust the inventory balances or to get our beginning balances in, we're going to go to the Inventory Adjustments screen underneath Processes, Inventory, and Inventory Adjustments. On that screen, I'm going to choose my company, and then I'm going to choose my adjustment date. Well, I'm going to choose mine as 12/31 of 23. However, if I was using first in, first out, or last in, first out, then I might need to put in several transactions in a particular order, because you may have items in inventory that are the same item that were purchased at different dates and at different costs. So that when CenterPoint, when you sell that item in CenterPoint, in order for CenterPoint to be able to calculate the cost correctly, we need to know what order they were purchased in and at what cost. So you might have several transactions that need to go in for the same inventory item. So you can use all of the dates within that beginning period in order to accomplish that. Okay, since mine was average, I'm going to put in one transaction with an average cost. So each adjustment is going to have its own transaction number, and it'll increment each time you put in a new transaction. If you are putting in items that were on a specific invoice number and you want to reference that invoice number, you can put it over to the left-hand side. Otherwise, you can choose the item. I'm going to choose a ski package that we have. I'm going to choose our economy ski package that I'm entering in the beginning balance for. Then you're going to choose a template, which is just basically telling the system, are we increasing or are we decreasing the item? So we're going to be increasing it. I'm going to increase it by 8, and the unit cost on this item is going to be $109. The profit center, since I'm keeping track of profit centers, I'm going to go ahead and select that, as my skiing profit center. And I'm going to also select my Colorado store. If you're not recording those kinds of details, you don't need to worry about it. But more importantly, if you have the inventory locations module and you're keeping track of your inventory by inventory location, you want to make sure that you select the correct inventory location. And then you want to select also the correct unit of measure that you're going to be entering in the quantity for. It's going to calculate the amount. Now, if there are any columns of information that you want to add that you don't see on the screen, or any columns of information that you want to take away. You can right-click on the screen and go to Add Remove Columns and put a check mark in any column you want to add to the screen and take the check mark out of any column that you want to remove. Before I click Save on this, I'm going to add additional items. So you can add as many items to one transaction as you want, or you can even add the same item. So I'm going to go ahead and add the same item, but I'm going to put it in at a different location. Since the first line was increase, it's automatically going to default that next line to increase. I'm going to go ahead and choose the same cost, the same profit center. This time I'm going to choose a different store and a different inventory location. Okay. Now again, I can continue adding more items, or I could add the same item with more locations. When I'm done, I'm going to click Save, and then I'll be able to see those items if I run an inventory stock status report. So I'm going to go to Reports. To the Reports tab, I'm going to type inventory into the box. And there is a report called the Inventory Stock Status by Item and Location. And I'm going to click Preview on that, and you can see then that it added those to my inventory, and it maintained the inventory location from the transaction. Now that was adding items that were non-serialized or non-lotted. If you have set up items that are either lotted or serialized, you do need to put them in still on this screen, but it's going to be a little bit different. So this time I'm going to add an item that is a serialized item. So my bike packages are serialized. Again, I'm going to increase the item. So I'm going to choose the template for increase. But this time I'm not going to put the quantity and cost on this screen. There's going to be a different place where I put that. I'm going to choose my profit center. And I'm going to choose my location, and then again, my inventory location and my unit of measure. When dealing with lotted or serialized items, you do need to go to the button labeled lot or serial number. And this is where we're going to add our lots or our serial numbers. So first I'm going to choose my inventory location, and then I'm going to click on the button to add a lot or serial number. Now I could set up for lot numbers, I could set up a sequence number for that. I don't have any sequence numbers, but you can set up a sequence number for it. I'm just going to go ahead and click the Add Lot Serial row, and that adds a row where I can put in a new serialized item. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the serialized number for that item. The quantity on those serialized items is always going to be 1, and I'm going to put in the amount for it. Oops, that's going to be $87. And when I set up that serialized item, I said I wanted to record some extra info on it, and the info that I am recording is the size and the color of it. Then I could add another row and keep adding rows until I have all of the information in that I need to get in. When you're done, you'll click OK. And again, you can continue on to another serialized item and add more items before you save this transaction, or you could use the same item at a different location. I'm going to click Save. And then once again, I could go to the reports and see that that got added to my inventory. So I'm going to go to Reports. I'm going to open up Transaction Reports and Inventory. And on that is a report where I can look at the lotted serialized item stock status by location. And you can see here that it has added my 2 items to our stock status reports.